Welcome back to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored with Caroline Stanbury. And today I am joined by, well, the most amazing Ilana Muhlstein. I hope I said that right.
Thank
I'm
you.
terrible. I'm known for
Yes, you
my
got
bad
it.
my bad pronunciations. You are a mother of three, a registered dietitian, author, entrepreneur, and I just fell down the rabbit hole of your TikTok. So
Oh, fun.
welcome. Well, you
Thank
can
you so
do
much for having me.
well, pleasure. And I'm very excited to have you because, well, health and wellness is one of the things that all my listeners are fascinated by. And I watched your story this morning and tell everybody really how you got into it because it was a long journey for you.
Yeah, for sure. As early as I can remember, I was overweight. So that was always kind of like my personality trait, my identity, the thing that everyone talked about when I was around. My first memories were of my parents getting a divorce at 4 years old. So I guess I was inadvertently leaning on food as a form of comfort and stability during a very chaotic time, unknowingly. I was bouncing from house to house, and my parents were living in New York City, kind of like in the dating world and lifestyle. And so, me sitting in the kitchen on a stool watching Nickelodeon with piles of cookies or peanut butter jars or whatever I could get a hand on really became my source of comfort and companionship during that time. And so, I always had very troubling appointments with my doctor. My pediatrician was constantly saying, "Oh, wow, she's gained more weight. She's gained more weight." And at the same time, my parents were yo-yo dieting. They were having Atkins wrappers like hidden in their closet. Like they were just very unhealthy in their relationship with food. And so I didn't have positive role models either. And my friends, were all tiny, and I was just kind of very lost. And they would send me to dietitians and nutritionists who would tell me that I need to eat protein the size of a deck of cards, but I always really loved food and I like to eat. So at 8 years old, my pediatrician, my doctor said, enough is enough. We have to send her to fat camp. And they literally shipped me off, my parents and doctor, to like the famous weight loss camp on MTV called Camp Shane. And I went for 9 weeks as an 8-year-old by myself, and you would get weighed and measured, portion control meals, like 12 hours of exercise a day at such an early age. And I lost weight, but then I just obviously gained it all back and more, returned right back to my habits. And I ended up doing this yo-yo dieting cycle for like 8 years. I'd go to weight loss camp and lose 30 pounds. Then I returned back to school and would gain 50. I'd lose 30, I'd gain 50. And to the point where I was at my highest weight, I was, maybe 215 pounds, well over 200 pounds. I was only 5 feet, 2 inches tall. And at that point, I was like going into high school. I was at my 7th summer or something at weight loss camp. And I remember just looking down at my body and having this light bulb moment of like, enough is enough. You only get one body. You might as well make it rock. No one is going to do this for me. There's not going to be like this magic thing. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow as much as I've begged to the heavens to give me this magic different body. I have to put in the work and I have to figure out a new way. So I went back home and I started creating my own system that would work for my lifestyle. Someone who likes to eat, who doesn't like to feel deprived, who doesn't want to count calories, who, wants to eat larger portions of food. And it started working. And I ended up losing 50 pounds through high school, went on to become a registered dietitian, get my master's degree in nutrition, realized I wanted to share what's worked for me with other people. And now down 100 pounds, I'm so grateful that my program that worked for me is now helping hundreds of thousands of people around the world. So that's
I
where
mean,
I'm at.
that's crazy because actually, you always think about dieting really in the adult sense of the world, that people sort of
Mm-hmm.
hit teenagers, adults, and things like this, and that, young children really suffer from it as well. And actually, it is something that isn't dealt with enough in schools and at home because my son comes home from school a lot of the time and says, "Oh, am I too big or am I overweight?" And I'm like, "Why are you even thinking about that? Like, what, why are little boys at 13, 14 even thinking about that? I mean, surely I always understood that you went wider before you went up anyway." before you have that growth spurt. But I think it's fascinating that, children so young are thinking about their bodies in this way, and sad at the same time. I'm obviously, my children are products of divorce now, and most children in school are products of divorce now. I mean, most marriages, as we know, end in divorce. So, I wonder if there is a better way of making it fun and teaching children how to calorie control. I mean, going to school as well, I know that just packing a lunchbox, we shove in chocolate, you shove in crisps, you shove in, all the wrong stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm super excited. Like the last decade, I've really been focused on adult weight loss and nutrition. So my, 2 books and my weight loss program, the 2B Mindset, everything has been about adult nutrition. But actually, when I was going to school and writing my admission essay, my whole mission was to become a registered dietitian so I could curb the childhood obesity epidemic. And I was writing that essay, over a decade ago, before the childhood obesity epidemic is actually as bad as it is now. I mean, it's only worsened over the years. But then anytime I would share any nutrition advice publicly about it, I would get really shamed. So in my private practice in Beverly Hills, I see several kids. I have several pediatric offices who refer me clients. But anytime I would share any sort of TikTok with my own children, showing how they know how to read a food label or talking about healthier habits for kids, there was so much backlash of people saying, how dare you limit kids? Just give them all the goldfish and Snickers and Oreo cookies and they'll be happier and all these things. And I know you would tell me like, oh, who cares about the haters? Like, just keep on keeping on. And I was fine saying very controversial things when it comes to adult nutrition. But I think I became too sensitive as a mom of 3 kids. I think I became too sensitive when I thought that they were judging me as a parent. So that really silenced me for a lot of years. But now that I'm seeing that pediatric obesity is worse than ever, I'm seeing that they are trying to approve weight loss surgeries for young kids and essentially cut out their stomachs before they have a chance to learn better habits. They're trying to approve Ozempic and Mounjaro for little children too, which does not give them an opportunity to understand hunger cues and make better choices and figure it out. And so now unapologetically, I'm going full throttle. By the end of this summer, I'm coming out with my new kids nutrition program called Raising Balanced Eaters. And it really is about raising balanced eaters. I don't like the word healthy because that connotes, I don't know.
Yeah, you should be able to have everything in moderation. Exactly.
It's balance. Totally. And that's, it's a art figuring out that balance.
But that's what I'm saying, not because I think that per se that children, should be even thinking about it more. But obviously you're a child that went through it and grew up still going through it. And so, you're bound to have residual feelings from that. You're bound to look after your children in that way, and give them different tools. And you are the perfect person to be the spokesperson for that in because you've lived it. You're not, you've been through it and you know how it feels to be that child. And I think that's what's so important. And just as you know how to be that adult. And I think, it was just watching your TikTok when you said, I couldn't wait to be, I wanted to be in the photo, not just taking the photo now. And I think that's, it's very interesting because it is women go, a lot of women eat their feelings, yo-yo diet. I mean, I went up a lot of weight for me last 2 years. I've just come down. I did use Ozempic, but
I heard you talk about that. And I think it's great that you share that. I'm not necessarily against the use of those medications in a responsible form for an adult. I also think a lot of adults had opportunities to try other things, see that they weren't helpful. With kids, it's my whole goal is to prevent them from ever needing to think about it, ever needing to get to the point where they are overweight, just setting the healthy habits. I mean, in France, they have this really amazing mindset where the first 5 years of a kid's life is all about establishing healthy eating habits. That's their term, establishing a healthy eating habit. So 0 to 5 in France, they are really into not a lot of sugar, lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of, vegetable-based soups, lots of water, lots of activity, lots of fresh produce and healthy foods. Versus in America, we're doing the opposite. 0 to 5, if you look at any sort of kids product that's marketed towards kids, if it has a cartoon character on it, it usually equates into 20 more grams of sugar per serving than you're going to have an adult related product. So when it comes to yogurts, kids cereals, even like kids vitamins, like everything for kids equates to more sugar, more food coloring, everything. So we're now trying to recover later in life and now tell these kids they have to go on diets versus just trying to adopt more of this French eating lifestyle where no, like why introduce sugar before they even need to know what sugar is, you know? My daughter was my first, and so she only thought that pasta was black because I only gave her black bean pasta. And so when she first discovered that pasta was white and play dates, she was like, "Oh, mommy, look, it's white pasta." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that thing." So I mean, now we have chickpea pasta that looks the same as white pasta, but I'm totally into really trying to establish healthy eating habits. Of course, there's balance. My kids have plenty of desserts and treats, but we need to give them like a strong admiration for healthy foods. And it's not a chore to eat healthy foods. It's actually the normal. It's the standard. And we really have to get back to that way of thinking.
Well, I think it's also the way we live today, which is such a fast pace too. So, I know even in my house, like I'm very, very high on healthy eating for us now. And I love, I love being the weight I am. I don't want to go back to where I was. And, so I think about it all the time. But when I think about it, making healthy food is tedious. It takes time. It takes real thought. It takes preparation. You can always grab something unhealthy from the shelf, but making healthy food is actually a chore. So, what I liked about watching your TikTok is that you do quick, easy recipes, which I think,
Totally.
I think
And I love shortcuts.
yes, and I think everyone
I love
does.
kitchen shortcuts.
I'm a
Yeah, I'm
big
not a Nara Smith. Like, there's all these TikToks now of like just such homemade, like, oh, my kid wants cereal, so I'm going to take out flour and baking powder. No, no, no. Like right now we're living in 2024. We have to give so much attention to all of these food companies that are trying to change the game and really adapt our convenient, fast-paced lifestyle and our favorite flavors, but in healthier ways. So I'm on the board and I'm the dietitian advisor for a company called Goodles, which is a better for you macaroni and cheese. It tastes exactly like macaroni and cheese. My kids take it for lunch every day. It looks like the Kraft box, but it's made with chickpea flour. It's higher in protein. It's higher in iron. It's higher in fiber. And it's, low glycemic index. It's not spiking these kids' blood sugars. So it tastes good, but it's also giving kids good energy. I mean, there's like all these new cereals. The problem is they're really expensive. So we do have an emergence of some healthier food products that are just as fast and tasty, but now we have the problem of cost. So it's one of these things where hopefully supply and demand starts to work out in its favor, where enough of us are
buying
working
it,
to get
the
these
price can come
products
down.
and
Yeah.
it'll help bring the price down. I mean, we had the same thing with like Wendy's and McDonald's. They were selling salads and some of them still do, but not enough people buy them. So when people don't buy them, they offer less of them. They make the price higher. And so that's kind of, it works both ways. We need to have the availability, and then we also need to have the knowledge to step up the motivation and really associate. Yes, it might not be as tasty at the start, but then you grow to like these things, and then you learn that they make you feel better, and that motivates you, and then you get results. I'm big on results. Like if you're not getting results, you're not going to be motivated to make these changes. So I'm not just like healthy at every size and make the healthy choice if you're feeling it and not if you're not, because that doesn't usually lead to long-term change. We need to actually see the results, actually feel like you're losing weight, actually feel like you're getting some sort of benefit from the healthy choices, because that usually steps up the motivation as well. For kids, it's a different, we're not going on the scale as much and seeing the same results. So we have to kind of like explain to them over and over and over again and reiterate the benefits. Like my kids
Because you
were in
don't
such a bad, yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't want to scare your children into not
Totally.
eating, and that's the
Right.
other thing. Like I do think that kids do tend to go wide, then they go tall, then they go wide again, then you get fat in places you didn't know you could when you're
Right.
teenagers. You go through gawky stages that everybody goes through, and that's perfectly normal. So at that point in a child's life, I also don't want them to feel like they're never going to be able to lose it, and they're stuck like this for the rest of their
Right.
life.
With
It's
kids, I try not to talk about weight at all.
Yes.
because they don't associate that eating choices with weight necessarily. They just think that they're not good because of the weight. Like when I was younger, everyone would tell me, "You're so overweight, you're so overweight." But they wouldn't tell me anything to do about it. They would just say, "You got to work on your weight." They didn't say, "Eat more," like, "Oh, wow, I think you would really like to eat more vegetables. Let me help you with a delicious recipe and a way to eat more." But like they don't tie it together. So with kids, I try not to talk about weight at all. It's much better to associate with how you feel, the benefits. On Sunday, my kids were off the walls, slept terribly, slept in, could barely wake up for school on Monday morning. Like they were just wrecked. And then by Wednesday, everyone's waking up early. Everyone has good energy. Everyone's actually doing their homework. Like, I'm not saying they're perfect. They're still kids and like have a lot of energy and everything. But their mood from Sunday to Wednesday was so noticeable this week. And so I use that as a great opportunity of like, hey guys, you're doing amazing today. Like really praise the good behavior. Did you just get dressed by yourself? Did you actually brush your teeth without me having to ask? Like, I can't believe we're actually going to be 5 minutes early and not late for school. And then I'll just make them aware of like, wow, I really think that, a good dinner, eating well, look how different that's playing a role in our energy and habit. On Sunday, we had all those birthday parties. We ate so much pizza. There was so much birthday cake. And we could barely wake up on Monday morning. I wonder if there's a connection there, and like just get them curious about it, of just how different foods make us feel different ways. So I try to, get in like a positive message of how powerful nutrition is. They love to read food labels. They'll be like, "Mom, look how much sugar is in this snack." I'm like, wow, that's, you know, way over 25 grams, which is all we kind of need for a whole day in that one snack. That's interesting. So it's not bad. It's not good, but like, that's interesting. That's like, I wonder why it has that much sugar. I wonder if they could have made that better.
So going back to like where you were in your life and then coming to where you are today, like were you scared even because a lot of people say when they've lost major weight and they've been through as much as you had to get to where you are. I mean, even having children to put on the weight that you would have to get pregnant. A
It's
lot of women
hard.
don't want to do that
Yeah,
because
I was
it
the
is
same
so
way.
hard.
Yeah, it really was. When I got pregnant with my daughter, I was down 75 pounds. I
Yeah.
wasn't even at the weight I'm at today. And so I was down 75 pounds. I was a registered dietitian. I was leading weight loss seminars at UCLA and had a private practice in Beverly Hills. And I was at a weight which was kind of like my goal weight my whole life. And I was pretty happy there. Like I was in single digit clothing sizes, and I really was finally in this healthy range of a BMI, your body mass index. So I thought I was, really in this good place. At that point, I'd spent so many years bringing down my weight, controlling my weight, realizing what was good for it. So when I started gaining, I was so uncomfortable. And, a lot of people don't like to talk about this now. Postpartum depression is more spoken about, but I actually had depression during my pregnancy. So I don't know if it was because I was pregnant with a girl and it was too much estrogen or what it is, but the doctor said it's almost as common as postpartum. But I think I definitely had a chemical imbalance. Like I was just crying a lot my first pregnancy, but it was also probably one thing that was affecting me was just seeing my weight go up and up and up and up. And like, even if you're eating well, when you're pregnant, the scale could jump 4 pounds in a day just because you're holding on to more water or retention, like you're swollen. So that was very hard for me, my first pregnancy. Thankfully, right after it, one, I think the second she came out of me, my estrogen balanced better. So I think that a lot of that really difficult sadness I was experiencing during the depression went away, thank goodness. And I had postpartum happiness, actually, which is really amazing. But I also just started implementing my 2B mindset, my weight loss program. And I was really just pulling it all together. Everything I taught my UCLA seminar, everything that's now in my big weight loss program that so many people are doing and having success with, I just implemented it and the weight just rolled off. And I not only lost the pregnancy weight, but then I actually even got down to, my weight that I'm at today that I've been comfortably maintaining for the last 10 years over having 2 more pregnancies. So then I came out with my pregnancy program in my third pregnancy because I learned a lot from that first one, second one, and all the private clients I had in between, which turned into all the nutrition recommendations I would make for a pregnant woman
So
overall. But yeah, it was not easy. It was not easy.
what do you feel was the biggest switch for you in the change in the dieting for you? Like what was
Yeah.
the key to your weight loss?
Well,
because obviously weight loss is very
yeah,
individual, and it is, some they have
totally.
blood diets, they have, so many out there. How do women even know where to begin?
Right, right. And when I first met Beachbody Body, the company that helped me turn what was working with my private clients in UCLA, when I first met them and they were going to help me scale it into a worldwide program that's like translated in different languages and everything, I was like, there's no way. Like, how are we going? Yes, it works in my seminar at UCLA with 100 people, but that's because I could talk to each person afterwards. Like, how are we going to scale this? And make it that it's not individualized. And they did a really brilliant job at everyone who does my weight loss program. The 2B Mindset feels like I'm kind of working with them one-on-one because it's very self-led. So I have these 4 core principles that I share within my program, my book, and elsewhere. And they really make up a solid 50% of weight loss. Obviously, there's more. I get into emotional eating and self-sabotaging and late night eating and so forth and what to have at every meal. But I do find year after year, study after study, most of weight loss comes down to these 4 core principles. So the first 2 principles are my slogan: water first, veggies most. All day we think we're so hungry. Most of the time we're just thirsty. Water is a huge key pillar of weight loss. People talk about it for digestion. Yeah, go drink up. People talk about water as benefits for digestion and cognitive health and immune health. But honestly, when it comes to weight loss, more water, more weight loss. Like I've seen that over and over and over again. It helps us stay full. It helps us regulate our appetite. It helps us regulate our portion control without thinking about it. I don't like to think about portion control because that's all I was told as a little kid. And I like to eat a lot and I still do. But when you drink loads and loads of water first, like I have these massive jugs all over my desk and everywhere, you actually feel fuller. And studies show when you drink water first prior to your meals, you actually eat less at the subsequent meal without having to overthink it. So that's my whole thing. Like I want this to be a lifestyle. I don't want people to have to overthink it. So lots and lots and lots of water, water first, and veggies most. So I was a huge emotional eater, mindless eater, volume eater, all the things, but I was eating chips. I was eating, peanut butter with a spoon. I was eating chocolates. I was eating cookies. I was eating loaves of bread and Chinese food takeout from the container, just several containers at a time. And I realized I don't actually have to eat less. I have to eat smarter. So I'm all about eating smarter, not less. Once it clicked for me and I realized I want to do this, I would, instead of popcorn with butter at night while watching TV, I would take broccoli and roast that and eat that with butter and salt. And the weight started coming down and I never felt hungry. So veggies are a key pillar of weight loss. Like
I'm
finding
not
ways
sure
to
how
incorporate.
my kids would take it if I swapped their popcorn for broccoli with salt and oil.
Well, with kids, we're not necessarily swapping, we're incorporating. We're definitely adding,
They love
if your kid is
broccoli.
having, yeah, good, good. Like, carrots and hummus and guacamole and red bell peppers and cucumbers with salt. Like these are underappreciated snacks, meal components, meal bases. So definitely big proponent of water first, veggies most, finding more ways to love vegetables. It's one of those things where if you go to almost every other country that doesn't have a weight issue, vegetables are a key pillar. Like in Greece and Iceland and Israel, there are vegetables as the core central of breakfast, and then in America, even at a high-end buffet, sometimes you only see like a little sliced tomato next to the bagels, if that. So definitely incorporating way more veggies. I am a big fan of the scale. Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of the scale. I feel like we've demonized it. Bless you.
Okay.
We've demonized the scale for so long, and I think that it's unwarranted, like unless you have a super unhealthy relationship with the scale. Oh, you're gonna sneeze again.
I've got a sneezing fit. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, the scale could be a really helpful tool as well, and then just track, like keeping a food journal without having to count calories, but just being aware. Bless you.
I
Of your food
love the
choices.
scale. I've got to say, I love the
Good.
scale for me because the thing is, I've been the same weight my whole life, really. Oh my God, I've got a sneezing fit. Sorry. And I keep it just to remind me where I like to be. Like I know that
Exactly.
I can be a couple of pounds up or down, and I'm good with that. But like when I so sorry, I've got a complete sneezing fit. But when I put on the weight after my hormone doc, going to do my IVF, I'd put on 18 pounds, which was huge for my body, huge.
Totally.
And so when I saw that on the scale, that obviously, where to get to, and it just gave me the thing to keep going, to keep going.
Totally. Yeah,
So
I'm a big fan of the scale. That's like, I've been written up in the Journal of Obesity for my research on the scale. Honestly, the second we started talking about how the scale is not a good thing, our obesity epidemic only skyrocketed. Like, it never got down. We live in a society today where, I don't know, you could talk about our soil, you could talk about our environmental factors, you could talk about all these, contributors to obesity. But regardless, we're living in a very obesity laden society. If you avoid it, it's not magically going to go down. It's going to gradually come up. And I find that people are usually more successful the more aware they are of it, because if you see that you're going on at least once a week and it's going up 4 pounds, you're like, okay, wow, I can lose 4 pounds.
now
I've
you
lost
need
4
to
pounds
pull
before.
back. You need to pull
Right.
back. And that's what I
Exactly.
do. So like, if I've seen it go up and, I've been on holiday and I've gone up 2 pounds, I simply don't have dinner at past 6 o'clock. That's it.
Yeah.
And it drops
you
off
find
me.
a way to self-regulate. And that's what all
Yes.
studies show. But sadly, people have not been getting this message for so long. And so people now avoid the scale for 3 months, 5 months, a year at a time. Through COVID, people didn't look at the scale. And then have to come past COVID up 40 pounds, 50 pounds. That's exhausting, So
And then it's gone
teaching
too
people
far.
to have a healthy relationship. Exactly.
And
Teaching
also,
people to have a healthy relationship with the scale is important.
I don't feel that like, your clothes is a good judge of how much weight you
Right.
put on. When they say you don't need a scale, but just check by your clothes. Well, I mean, how's that going to
Not
help?
true.
Like, it's at all. I think by then, again, by the time you're out of a pair of jeans or like really out of them and a top,
It's been way too far.
It's been way too far. And then you have a problem. So I agree. I think a scale can be really healthy as long as you're not obsessively looking at the one little line all the time. I really like to keep control of myself like that, because
Good.
if it's up and down, as I said, just a little bit, it's so easy to correct it. It is so much
Totally.
easier than when it
And
piles
you
on.
realize that you could actually eat and have it go down. Like, a lot of people avoid the scale. Then they think they like have to not eat. No, of course you have to eat, but now you learn to eat smarter and not necessarily even less. Like, I sometimes work with private clients all the time. Sometimes the days they're eating more, but they're eating more vegetables and, filling foods, they're actually losing more weight than the days where they skip meals and then they like now we're having handfuls of trail mix that doesn't even feel filling and satisfying, but it's so dense in calories and they're gaining weight. So using the scale with a food journal in the way that I teach people within my To Be Mindset weight loss program, it's very empowering and self-led, because people start to have these self-realizations and they don't feel bad for themselves. I used to feel so bad about myself for not having better self-discipline, or people become very vulnerable. Like, if you're struggling with your weight and your neighbor loses 50 pounds by going keto, it's very easy to just say, okay, I should be keto, or I should be eating apple cider vinegar and cayenne pepper all day. But when you start to go on the scale, you realize, oh no, I could actually eat. I just, it was a good idea that last night I went for the branzino instead of the double cheeseburger or whatever in a restaurant.
What
You start
about
to
women?
self-regulate.
What about women in their 40s? Because that is clockwork for everyone. I mean, it really is. You get to about 43 and then suddenly you have a tire of fat that you've never had before in your life. And that is a different type of fat. I don't know what that is, but it just appears and it's like overnight. That is very hard for women to get. And it, because of my age as well, I suppose, I get written to a lot now from women asking how I've managed to keep it back. I mean, I put all that on at the same time because I was 43 when I met Sergio, but 45, I guess, when we did IVF, or 46. And that's when it
Right. It's like a perfect storm. The
all
perimenopause
piled
with
on.
that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally.
So, how do women lose hormonal weight? The same way?
Right. For sure. It can be the same way. Like, I have hundreds and hundreds of clients in their 40s who've had amazing success. People with PCOS, people with everything. When you change your mindset, when you change your habits, you definitely change your results, and that's for sure. But
I can't
true.
live.
It's real.
I can't just live off vegetables. I'd go nuts.
Well, not only off vegetables.
No, I know,
sure.
but like that, what else? What else
We have
do you
protein
suggest?
at every meal.
You
protein
do.
at every meal. When you're choosing carbohydrates, it's also the carbohydrates we choose, right? So I always there's plenty of carbs. I'm not, cutting off people's carbs, but I really recommend people have them in that first half of the day rather than as much at night,
Yeah.
because we do tend to burn more calories, actually several more calories in the first half of the day when we're burning our energy and using it, versus the second half of the night where we tend to be more sedentary. So I always recommend, shaping your meals so that you're having carbs at breakfast, you're having carbs at night. At dinner is where we really focus on some of those low starchy veggies, like having the spaghetti squash with turkey meatball style meals rather than the pasta and the rice style meals. So definitely changing the balance of carbohydrates you're eating throughout the day and making sure that those carbohydrates are higher in fiber and lower in sugar. Because as a woman gets older, as we become more sedentary, as all women go past 30 and beyond, our metabolisms do change. And how many carbohydrates we need for energy changes, and how much energy we're burning off changes. Also, our muscles tends to deplete. So maintaining lean muscle mass by eating protein throughout the day is super important.
Yeah, because I can't focus. Like I tried diets, like a lot of like, eating salads all the time and not having carbs. And then I just feel very tired, very
Totally.
tired.
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's
we
just
have
turned to
to avoid
water.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Um,
definitely want to avoid that. But sometimes when we go for white carbs or just like cupcakes or things like that are low fiber and high in sugar, they give you that spike of energy, but then they really deplete it. Plus, they spike your insulin, and insulin is a fat storing hormone. So it's really important that people like try to use my eating plan that I recommend in the 2B mindset in my weight loss program and really start to balance the carbs throughout the day in an appropriate way, so that at night, when you are filling up on more of the veggie style meals and the lean proteins, you're full and you stay full, but then you help keep your insulin low throughout the night, and you could have what I like to call fat burning sleep, because we can't burn fat in the presence of high insulin levels like that. And so when you balance your carbs to eat them when you're using them most and kind of work differently throughout the day, you could actually lose weight even, with a slower metabolism. And I feel like I was born with a metabolism that was super slow. I mean, it's very hard to become morbidly obese at such a young age, even at that time when our food was different and not as overly processed as it's become. But this definitely makes a change, and it's worked for a lot of women. I think women also in our 40s, we do tend to lose muscle mass, and so when you lose muscle, your metabolism goes down, but also that central obesity, like that stomach obesity, tends to get looser and more flabby and all of that. Also, our cortisol, our stress levels are highly related to this. So it is a
cellulite,
fine
wobbly
balance.
bits,
Yeah,
all of that. I mean,
all of it.
I work out a lot now, so I feel
Good
the
for you.
best I've felt in a long time. But do you have a fear of food now? Do you have a fear of putting it back
Oh,
on ever?
heaven forbid.
No.
No, I love food, and I have the healthiest relationship. I mean, I don't cut anything out. It was just my son's birthday the other night. We went out for dinner. I had like this fudge ice cream, bites of it with the whole family. No food are off limit. I always say you treat, not cheat. The second you start thinking you're cheating, then you start to become afraid of food. Then you start to like demonizing food. Then you start to put it on this pedestal and always dream about it. And then eventually you're going to burn out and run for all those foods. So I really try to make it a mindset. Like once you change your mindset on food, you really become free of it. And so I always like to say, when you have a treat, treat it as a treat, fully enjoy it. If you're not fully enjoying it, drop the fork. While you're having a treat, your only thinking should be, this tastes good. I'm really enjoying it. This is worth it. If you act like that when you're having French fries and pizza and cake and all these things, you actually realize that you can eat plenty of them while losing weight on your journey. If you start cutting it out, demonizing it, putting it on this pedestal, like, I wish I could eat that, I wish I could eat that, then your whole focus is there. Now you're starting to look at the healthy foods as a chore, those foods as a reward, and eventually our body burns out from doing chores all day, and you're going to go for all the wrong foods. So I'm obsessed with making people enjoy delicious vegetables, enjoy delicious lean proteins, enjoy fiber-filled carbs every step of the journey, so that you feel satisfied along the way and you actually have better success keeping it off. And when you are having a treat, you treat, not cheat, you track it, you enjoy it, you still use the scale, you realize like, oh, wow, a couple of bites of ice cream
Didn't
is
do
not
anything.
a
You can
10-pound
have it,
gain.
people.
Yeah.
You can have it.
Exactly.
Is your husband the same with you? Does he love to do all this as well, or do you have to manage that in your house?
People always think that my husband's naturally thin because he kind of like gives off that like tall and lanky vibe in a way, but he could gain weight just like anyone else. When we got married after our honeymoon, we went to Cancun for our honeymoon and it was like all inclusive and we were so bloated afterwards. Again, this was when I was up because this is before I had my daughter. And at his highest weight in our marriage, he was also like well over 200 pounds and he's lost like 30 pounds and kept it off through our marriage. Now he's like a solid 185, has a healthy relationship with the scale. But he focuses on this, you know, he lives in my house. So it's easier for him. So he's still gorgeous and has his weekends out with his friends and loves his desserts. But most of the day he eats pretty well. Like even if he has cereal and milk in the morning, he's usually having one of those high protein, high fiber, low sugar cereals. And he loves these foods, you know. He has the bread in my house that's higher fiber when he makes his sandwiches for lunch. He just got into working out recently, which I'm loving because obviously with men, it's hilarious. Like he does 5 push-ups and he's already ripped, unlike us who work out every day and like barely see the
I
changes.
mean, I live with a 29-year-old. So for me, it's a nightmare because he expects me to eat what he's eating and not put on weight. He
Oh
doesn't
no.
understand. Oh, no, I know. He doesn't understand the
Yeah.
difference in our age and metabolism at all. And it's
Oh, I
completely
had to
different.
like train my husband, and that's what I really like to do with my private clients, like people who I work with. I'm always trying to. This is how we need to talk with our spouse. My husband and I, when we first got married, we loved like sitting, watching TV at night, sharing. You know, I would make at that time. I was even a dietitian. I was making, you know, pumpkin brownies or air pop popcorn. You know, still these healthy recipes, but we don't need to be eating all night while watching television. And I realized eventually when I was like, you know, enough's enough, like I could stop self-sabotaging it and go to even a healthier point for me. I realized like that's going to really change our dynamic because I can't sit in the living room at the time in this small apartment next to a kitchen and not eat because it was like the kitchen was open concept. I was staring at it and it always made me want a snack. So I told my husband one day, I was like, enough is enough. I'm watching TV, like I'm unwinding in our bedroom, not in the living room next to the kitchen. I'm sorry. Like I'm not going to do it. And he really had a hard time with that because that changed our whole relationship. That was like the habit that we were pursuing together. And I was like, I have to be focused because honestly, every single time I have the intention of not wanting to eat after dinner, and then you're snacking next to me in the living room and I snack, I'm actually brewing resentment towards you when I see that the scale is going up and I'm not getting to my goals. And having this conversation with him, obviously it wasn't an overnight thing. It took like a few weeks, but now it's at a point where it's great. And I try to do this with all my clients. Now it's at a point, if I try to reach for his ice cream at 10 o'clock at night, he'd be like, I don't want to hear it in the morning. You know, like he's working for me, not against me. And I think it's really important that women speak up with their spouse and they share what their needs are, because if you're not getting to where you want to get, you will have this built up resentment. That sharing sushi moment, sharing the tempura, sharing the fries, he might be enjoying it, but if you're not feeling best in your skin, that's the least sexy woman a man wants to be with. You know, a woman who is confident, healthy, reaching her goals is the hottest thing in the world. So it really takes speaking up and vocalizing with your friends, with your spouse, with your mother-in-law, with your, you know, with your parents about how people can work for you. Because at the end of the day, people want you to be happy, but you have to show them what that looks like.
Oh, I do. I do speak up. He just doesn't listen that much, but I'm trying and
Oh,
I
I'll
speak
take
up.
some time with him.
Thank you. I speak up all the time. And she's going to speak to you, Sergio. She says she's going to teach you. It's a nightmare because again, we are a 20 years difference. There is a massive difference to what I can consume and he can consume. But anyway, you know, and that's the only thing because I have to work so much harder than he does to get it off. I really, really
Right.
do.
And
And
he
he
has
doesn't.
to honor and respect that. You know, sometimes that means that you guys are at a restaurant and you're drinking a chamomile tea and he's
Oh,
having
he's
the
not into
dessert
alcohol.
sampler.
Yeah. He has to
Uh,
eat dessert. He's not into alcohol, but he's big into desserts. And I just have to forego them right now. And he will literally have a hissy fit if we
he's a
can't
food
try it.
pusher.
He's a food
Oh, we
pusher,
don't.
an actual food
Oh,
pusher. Yes, he is because he feels
okay.
bad
We're going
eating
to
on
have
his
to have
own.
a talk with him.
Yeah.
Oh no, enjoy eating on your own. You know, like he has to enjoy eating on his own. There's nothing like you're enjoying more watching him enjoy and know that you're doing the best thing for your body. And so sometimes
100%.
like,
I
I
love
think
my
a
body
lot of
now.
times, exactly. Sometimes the food pusher doesn't realize that you could be happy not indulging. So you have to
Yes.
say, honey, I like my outfit right now is delicious. The way I look right now is like the most satisfying, delicious, yummiest treat on the planet.
My
I
bikini.
Exactly. My bikini is like the sexiest dessert on the planet. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have different things that light us up. And
Yeah.
that's always true, right? So like men might like cars more than women like jewelry or whatever it is. I always tell my husband when this is funny, for a little bit he was sabotaging my sleep and making me like binge watch shows with him or stay up late talking about work or stay up late talking about kids or whatever it is. And I'd wake up the next morning groggy. My carb cravings would be higher. My sugar cravings would be higher, which is totally proven. Appetite was higher, everything. And I was less focused in my career, in my friends, everything. When you're not sleeping, you're not well. So he would keep me up to bond. And I told him, I'm like, you can't do this to me. Like, I need you to watch TV out of the room. It needs to be dark. I need to have it silent. I need you to talk about peaceful things at night. And then you have to reward men. You really have to reward them. And so what I would say to my husband is like, my love language is act of service, not presence. So I would say to him, I'm like, honey, it literally as if you gifted me a Birkin bag this morning. And that's what I would say. I was like, it's literally as if you gave me a $5,000 diamond bracelet this morning by waking up with good energy, crushing my workout, drinking water, feeling satisfied, feeling full, feeling more energy. It's the equivalent of you buying me jewelry. And then he really liked that. He was like, okay, I could do that. And, you want to make them really aware of what makes you uncomfortable, but then you also have to like praise them. Like it was so incredible last night. It was so loving and amazing when you didn't force me to have your dessert. When you just let me have my tea,
I
be
say it
happy.
all the time, but I'm going to reiterate it
Yeah.
doesn't go in. He's just he does not go in the food thing.
Well, stay strong because you just always have to,
Oh, I'm
be
going to
your
stay
own best
strong because I
advocate.
feel the best I've felt in a long time, and I'm actually going
Good.
to stay. I'm going to stay here. So, and I've got so much coming up that I need to be at this sort of feeling my best.
And
And as
having
you
things
said,
coming up is a big
yeah,
piece,
yeah,
like having goals and things to look forward to. That also really helps keep people motivated and on track and realizing that
100%.
delicious treat is so much more worth it than
And
this.
seeing how you fit in your clothes and all of these things. But anyway, I mean, I honestly think it's such an important thing and such an important part of life, obviously. And I do a lot of gut health and a lot of things around sort of eating and feeling well from the inside out. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lina. It's been
Thank you
really,
so much for having
really,
me on.
insightful and something that I'm sure a lot of my listeners will understand and have been through themselves. Please tell everyone how to get hold of you and to read where they can find you and your books.
Sure. Yeah. So my weight loss book is You Can Drop It, and because you're dropping emotional eating and so much more through the process. My cookbook is Love the Food That Loves You Back. And I'm on all socials, Ilana Muhlstein RD on Instagram, Nutrition Babe on TikTok, Ilana Muhlstein on YouTube, and so much more. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored with Caroline Stanbury. Don't forget to rate and review.